We will now focus on quantity and currency fields. And in ABAP, these fields are treated just like pack number fields. And as such, you need to declare your currency field as a pack number. When you do this, always bear in mind how many decimal places you want, just as we did with the hours diff field in the previous exercise. Now in a real-life scenario, the number of decimal places has a great impact on the accuracy of your calculations in your program. And quite often your program will use a much higher number of decimal places in your calculations than those actually shown on list reports. Now quite often in your programs, you want to create your own variables for quantity and currency fields, but you'll find it's a lot better to associate your fields with the data type of fields of a table in the ABAP dictionary. And the reason why I say this is because the ABAP dictionary already has the field length and number of decimal places already defined for individual fields. Take our salary field in our employees table. We define 2 decimal places. So if we declare a currency field in our program to match that of salary in our employees table, we would normally have to refer back to the table itself, find out how many decimal places there were, and then define that manually in our ABAP program. Now there could be a scenario where the number of decimal places in the table would change, but our program, because we define it by ourselves using a type P for packed decimal, we could then have an incorrect number of decimal places in our program if the field is supposed to always reference the field in the table. So my preference is to always use the like statement. So when declaring my packed decimal fields for currencies and quantities, I'll always reference the table whose data I'm going to be reading into my variable or passing data from my variable to. So let's take a look at how we would normally define a currency field in our program. Here we go, so you can see I've used the data statement, created a field called my salary, then I'm using the like statement to reference our Z employees 2 table and the specific field salary. Now because we link our field in our program with the field in the ABAP dictionary, the system must always make sure the data types are kept in sync. And there are 2 aspects to this process: the number of decimal places and the associated currency or quantity keys. So as we saw when we set up the salary field in the ABAP dictionary, a currency field corresponds to an amount field of type DEC, decimal. Let's have a look. So let's pop over to the ABAP dictionary, have a look at our table, and here we have the salary field, and we can see it's currency type 9. If we double click on the data element, we can see that the domain is currency 9. We'll double click that, and then let's do a drop down in the data type here. And it gives us a hint that the currency field is stored as a decimal. And something else we can do, if we just double click on the currency type here, we get a screen that shows us the internal format for our ABAP programs uses the ABAP type P for packed decimal. And don't forget, when we set this salary field up, we had to reference a currency key field, which we declared as eCurrency. So these 2 fields always go hand in hand. A currency field always references the currency key, which is of type CUKY, which in ABAP world have a data type of character and have a fixed length of 5, which we can see here. So what this all boils down to is when you are declaring your fields in ABAP, reference the fields that they associate with in your table, and always bear in mind that every currency field we'll have a currency key that more often than not you have to take into account when outputting results to a report. And then for quantity fields, the same sort of thing applies, but instead of having a data type of currency, quantity fields, let's see if we can show this, have a data type of QUAN. Here we go. And instead of having a currency key, they will have a unit associated with them. So let's step out of this and go back to our program. Let's go on and create an example to calculate an employee's tax and net pay amount. So here in the data declaration section of the program, I've already defined my salary. So what I'm going to do is also declare a tax amount. And the tax amount is going to be a very similar field to salary in that it's a currency with 2 decimal places. So I'll just reference the same field in our table. Then let's declare a net pay. Same again, we'll reference the same field. And we'll declare a tax percentage. And pretty it up. Help if I spelled decimals correctly. So now we have our fields defined. Let's go to the bottom of this program and start coding. And what we're going to do is select records from our table, calculate the tax and net pay, and then output the results to a report. So to save some time, so you don't have to watch me make spelling mistakes, I've already coded this out. I'll just paste it into the program. And then also, we need one more statement at the top. Then I'll explain it. Okay, so because we're going to read data from a database table using a select statement, we're going to declare the table at the top of our program, zEmployees2. Then we'll go back down to the bottom, and I've written a select statement from the table. Then we're going to write out the employee surname, their salary, and the currency. Let me bring this full stop up. The next thing, we're going to calculate the tax amount. And that's by taking the tax percentage multiplied by the employee's salary. So then the net pay amount is the salary minus the tax amount. Then we're going to output the results onto the screen. But there's one thing we haven't done, and I believe that's tax percentage. Actually worked out what the percentage is. Or should I say, we haven't declared what the tax percentage is. So in the data declaration part, I'll tell you what, let's do it down below in the code. So we're going to say our tax percentage is equal to 20 to represent 20%. Oops, there we go. Okay, Now, just before we run the program, let's have a quick peek at the data. Now we have 6 records, but as you can see, only 3 have salary information and currency. So let's change that. Let's edit these records and key in some values. And what should we choose for the last one? Fiji dollars. Okay, let's step back, and now we can see these records have values in the salary and currency field. All looks good. So let's close that window and we'll test the report. So here we have the first record, Smith. The salary is 1111. Then we have the currency code. Then we output the tax amount and the tax currency and the net pay amount and net pay currency. So the tax amount should be 20% of 1111, and that looks about right. And that should be taken off the salary to give us the net pay. Just to make it a little bit tidier, let's include some descriptive text. Run it again, and there we can see. Oh, let's tidy it up a bit more. I am picky. Let's skip a line. There we go. So Smith, the salary, currency, the tax amount is this, and the net amount is this. All with the currencies in there. And that wraps up this module.